I'm Heather Williams, and I'm the conservative moderator.
And I'm Lauren Arpandel, and I'm the moderator.
I'm Neil Shukla, and I'm the Democratic candidate.
I'm Drew Patrick, and I'm filling in for Francisco Montevardi, the Republican candidate, because he is very sick today.
All right, so Neil,
Yeah.
do you support the death penalty, or would you rather allow a person to spend the rest of their life in solitary confinement in which the taxpayers have to pay for their existence?
Well, obviously, the taxpayers do have to pay for a person being in jail, but I do believe that with the death penalty, I don't think that it should be fully applied on all cases, because there are mistrials and there are mistakes that can happen in a case, and I don't think that, I think that a death penalty should only apply if the case is certain, and in only certain cases, and if the person is really deserves it in a bad offense.
Do you have anything to say, Drew?
Yes, I agree with what he says about there's mistrials sometimes, so we should be very careful of that. But if we do determine that someone definitely does, then there's no reason why they should spend the rest of their life in jail for something they deserve to die for. And when you spend the rest of your life in jail, you take money from the taxpayers who have to pay for you to live in jail when you can be killed, which would be serving justice in some situations.
Drew. Same-sex marriage is an issue commonly discussed in our modern society. What is your stance on the issue, and what solution would you propose?
For the Republican Party, we have taken the position that same-sex marriage should be allowed for civil unions purposes, but we want to keep the term marriage as a sacred term because, as your sister has said before, it's the separation of church and state, and marriage is something that originated in the church, so we would like to keep those two things separated. But the civil union would give all the same rights as a married couple would, just without the title.
Okay, well, I believe that same-sex marriage should be allowed, and for the reasons what he's saying with civil unions is basically what he's saying is separate but equal. And you remember the last time we had separate but equal. So I believe that same-sex marriage should be allowed because everybody deserves the right to be married, and they should have that economic advantage of having being married.
Okay. So, Neil, if food stamps and WIC is so important to society, why do they have to hide it in the Farm Bill and going towards those people rather than actually helping the farmers?
Well, actually, the Farm Bill does help the farmers. Okay, it's just that the food stamps helps the actual people when they're going to the store and they're buying the food stamps, and the Farm Bill itself helps the farmers by subsidies.
I personally don't agree with laws that citizens can't understand, and if we have to hide things in the food bill and the Farm Bill about food stamps, well, I don't understand why we can't make a straightforward bill about food stamps and make a straightforward bill about the farmers. So I think that I propose that if Francisco was to be elected, that he would have more straightforward laws that made more sense to people who actually were affected by them.
Drew, what do you think is the best system of taxation that would most effectively reduce our nation's debt and still generate significant government?
Well, the Republican Party has taken the position of we would like to reduce taxing on all levels of income so that would generate more of a profit for the upper and the middle and the lower, but while doing that we would raise sales tax a little bit, and the more increased spending that would occur because people have more money would increase the sales tax revenue that the government would receive.
Okay, I believe that we should stick with the progressive tax, and that's because we're asking for tax cuts on the lower to middle classes while asking the wealthy to pay a little bit more. This way we could give the money in the hands of the consumers, they could spend it on the businesses, and eventually it will work its way up. And I think this is a lot better than the top-down approach because all the money doesn't make it down. We know that it is happening.
Okay. So, Neil, the Keystone Pipeline is projected to create numerous jobs in this country, but even more importantly, it's supposed to help get us towards our energy independence, but Obama keeps blocking it. Due to his indecision, we have to rely on people who don't necessarily like us, like Saudi Arabia, because Canada is willing to alter the pipe so that it goes to Asia rather than the United States. How would you go about this situation?
Well, first of all, the only reason he denied it was because that he didn't have enough time to look through the whole plan. Another thing is that my campaign relies mostly, one of our big foundations is on finding ways of alternate energy. And this is important because building the Keystone Pipeline, what it does is it makes us more reliant on oil. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I know that it makes us energy independent, but it only creates temporary jobs. What I want to do is I want to invest more in alternate forms of energy and create those permanent jobs for people that are interested in that.
One of the first steps that Shisha would take as president would be to open up the Alaskan pipelines to bring jobs back to America and to eliminate our dependence on OPEC for our oil, and that would create more jobs, and it would keep them in America, and it would also help with our debt because countries would start to buy from us as well, and then that would reduce our debt.
Create temporary jobs.
As long as the oil's there.
I mean, temporary and versus
The oil's been in
permanent.
Saudi Arabia for how many years now?
Oh,
But still, we should rely on oil. We should find what's important.
I agree that we should find alternative forms, but that doesn't mean that the oil's gonna just disappear.
Yeah, it's not gonna disappear. We could at least get off it periodically.
You have to, there's a medium there.
Okay.
Drew, what is the most important issue to you as a candidate and why?
It's the most important issue. The thing that we really want to fix is what I've already touched on a little bit, is the tax law, and we strive to reduce the tax across the board, like we've already said, and that's gonna really boost the economy because, like he said, the trickle-down economy he does not think works, but if you think about it, the people at top, if they're getting taken more money away, that means they can't create more jobs that they could be able to create if they had that money. And if they can create jobs, and that's helping people in the lower middle class get jobs that would no longer be there if you use the progressive tax.
Okay, well, I'd like to touch on that a little bit. First of all, with the trickle-down economy, a lot of wealthy people are very greedy, and this does not necessarily work. Instead, what we want to do is we want to have tax cuts for the lower and middle classes. So we could give the money to the consumers, and they could spend it on the businesses, and eventually it'll make its way to the top. And I think that's a better approach because what you're doing is you're allowing the consumers to do whatever they want with that money, either save it or spend it, and it's going to grow the middle class. But my most important issue is on healthcare, and I believe that we should implement universal healthcare because I believe that it's very important that everybody has healthcare, no matter how much they're getting paid or what their income is. I believe that employees should provide all their workers with health insurance, and that people are mandatory to have health insurance because you don't know when a medical issue is going to arise. And with that being said, if you're insured, you won't have to worry about that. You would be calm. If you have a medical issue, if something happens, you can go to the doctor without having to worry about anything because you are insured. And I think that's my most important.
If people are greedy with their money at the top, then don't you think they're going to want more of it? If you're greedy for something, you're going to want more of it. If you want more of it, you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to work for more of it, which means you're going to have to hire more people, which in turn helps the lower class.
Right, but another thing is let's talk about minimum wage. When they hire workers and they pay them minimum wage, they're paying them the lowest possible thing that they could pay them. All right, and I think that is kind of greedy because these people cannot afford to be paid minimum wage. They're workers. They're working hard, and they're trying to provide for their family or anything or whatever they're trying to provide for, and they're not getting paid enough to have like a livable status on it, and that's why I think we should increase the minimum wage. Different topic.
Okay, so Neil, Bloomberg of the City of New York, who outlined 64-ounce drinks, people believe that was kind of taking away their personal liberties and to make decisions for themselves, and because he believes that they are not making healthy choices. Because it kind of goes along the lines of a violation of your liberties, are you in support of telling people what to do because you believe you know better and can make better choices for them?
I do not agree with Bloomberg's decision on banning the 64-ounce drinks. I believe that is a personal liberty. You should be able to go out and get whatever kind of drink you want, and I don't agree with that. I think that people should be allowed to make their own choices.
I don't think state government should be involved in food choices of individuals as well. Like he said, that people should be able to make their own choices on what drink they want to buy at a convenience store. So,
Drew, what is your stance on environmental development versus environmental conservation?
I think that there's a median here that definitely has to be reached. If you try to cleanse the entire environment, then the cost is going to be way higher than the benefit of actually cleaning the environment. But on the other hand, you can't just ignore the environment because it is something that we need to protect. So you definitely have to reach a middle ground there, not too heavy on either side, but a little area in the middle where things can be good.
Yeah, I agree with Drew. I think that it's important to conserve the economy, but at a certain cost. If it becomes too expensive, or if it's gets too it gets too hard to do it, then I believe that we should stop there. But we do have an obligation as a first world country to actually try and conserve the environment as much as we can, because it is our world.
Neil, a lot of people believe that illegal immigrants are being rewarded for breaking the law, in which they do not have to follow any of the rules or regulations that have been around for years. What is your stance on that?
Okay, with illegal immigrants, I believe that everybody wants to pursue the American dream. And if you are here and you are working, but you're not a U.S. citizen, if you're still working, I believe that you should be able to gain citizenship. And the reason is because they're working hard to get to that position where they can feed their family, where they could make a living, and that is what the American dream is all about. So I want those people, the people that actually work hard, the people that actually go to the job every single day, make no excuses, to be able to gain citizenship. And I think that's a very important part of what America is right now.
Well, one thing Fischler would do when he entered office would be to enforce a more strict policy on border control, and that is to reduce the amount of legal immigrants. But on the other hand, we understand that people need to do something to provide for their families. So we would also like to make the immigration policy easier and a more fluid process, but not allowing them to come in illegally and steal our jobs.
Okay, Drew, what elements of society do you think should have no government influence or involvement?
I believe that healthcare part of society should be completely privatized, because when you privatize healthcare, it creates competition, which will lower the prices for the individuals.
I don't believe that, but I think that there's a lot of places where the government shouldn't be involved in. But I think there's also places that the government should be involved in. For examples of what they shouldn't be involved in is, like personal liberties, just like that Michael Bloomberg case. And just anything involving liberties and anything with that has to do with the Constitution. On healthcare, however, I actually do believe that the government should step in with that, because insurance companies are getting too carried away with charging more and denying for pre-existing conditions. So I don't believe with the healthcare.
Alright, so, Neil, this is the end of the debate, and you have an opportunity to leave the voters with a final message.
Okay. So, basically, my party, what we want to do is we want to grow the middle class, and I think that is our most important thing. We want tax breaks for the lower middle class, and what this does is it grows it. So, what we do is we give the money into the consumer's hands so they can spend it, save it, do whatever they want. This allows them the choice to either go higher on the income level, or they could just stay where they are. But still, this is what he wants to do. Is he wants to have tax cuts for the rich, so that the rich can be making more profits. And I don't agree with that. So.
Alright, and Drew?
The number one thing is that we would like to do if we were to enter into office is the tax cuts for all across the border, because the trickle-down economy has proven in the past to work. Now, obviously, there's been areas when it hasn't, but if you approach it correctly with the correct regulations, then the trickle-down economy is a very, very effective way to bring us out of our recession currently.